Chinese military strategists claim that Beijing's missiles can destroy U.S. aircraft carriers from positions thousands of miles away. The leaked classified documents from the U.S. also mention the Dong Feng-27 hypersonic missile, the latest weapon system that can threaten all targets in the Pacific. Does this mean that U.S. aircraft carriers have become outdated? Will the U.S. be forced to abandon allies like Japan and Australia? Can Taiwan expect any help if China attacks? In reality, the scenario of attacking U.S. aircraft carriers is not as straightforward as it seems. If it was possible, the Soviet Union would have eliminated the existence of U.S. aircraft carriers 50 years ago. You are watching FBNC's World Affairs. The ballistic missiles can destroy U.S. aircraft carriers from afar is actually an idea that has been kicking around for decades. The Western media, with its short attention span, is perennially amazed by it, but is a very old story. In fact, the first anti-ship ballistic missiles, ASBM, was developed almost 50 years ago. The Soviets developed the R-27K in 1975. This could be fired from a submarine at targets a few hundred miles away. It had a maneuvering re-entry vehicle with a radar tracker that could locate a ship within an area of sea 50 kilometers across and steer itself so as to strike within a few hundred yards of it. Even U.S. aircraft carriers are not big enough that you can hit them reliably with this source of accuracy, but the R-27K had a 1 megaton nuclear warhead. Close would have been good enough. The old-time Soviets came up with various schemes to solve the problem of locating U.S. carrier groups. One plan called for simply overwhelming the carrier's defenses with waves of heavy bombers, though even the Soviets would probably have struggled to find enough aircraft for this. The Soviets also sought to use satellites to fight the enemy. The problem here is that most kinds of satellites offer only a so-called drinking straw view of the Earth beneath. One potential solution is to build a satellite with radar, which from space could potentially swap huge area of ocean. The trouble here is that a long-ranging radar at orbital altitude needs a lot of energy, and satellites don't normally have much available because the solar panels which power them don't produce much. This led the Soviets to build radar satellites which were nuclear-powered, not just with relatives, humdrum radio isotopes generators, but actual small nuclear reactors. Between 1967 and 1988, the Soviets put 33 nuclear-powered radar oceans reconnaissance satellites (ROSAT) into space. However, the ROSAT program encountered serious issues with its reactor processing system. The program came to an end along with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Back in the year 2005, the Chinese Navy was nothing to be worried about. Its submarines were mostly old diesel boats, no great threat. It had only one nuclear missile sub, meaning that it had no continuous at-sea deterrence. China had no aircraft carriers and no cruisers. Things have changed a lot. Today, the People's Liberation Army, Navy, the plan has 6 new nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed submarines. At least one is always at sea, unseen and unfightable, ready to launch its 12 ballistic missiles, each with 3 nuclear warheads capable of destroying a city. Entirely new classes of warships have also appeared in the Chinese order of battle. China now has 2 working aircraft carriers. They aren't proper carriers, they don't have catapults, and thus have to launch their jets off a ski jump ramp, meaning that China's seagoing jets can't carry as much as normal warplanes and are limited in their capabilities. China's third carrier, the Fujian, was launched last year and is still fitting out. She is 80,000 tons at full load displacement, bigger than Britain Queen Elizabeth class, and approaching the size of America's 100,000-ton supercarriers. The Fujian is expected to carry 40 combat jets plus radar planes, and crucially, she has catapults, so this will be fully capable, powerful aircraft. A 4th carrier is expected soon, and reportedly this ship will be nuclear-powered like US carriers, and so able to carry more aircraft and operate without refueling. According to a report released by the U.S. Congressional Research Service, the Chinese Navy has become the world's largest naval force with 351 warships, compared to the United States' 294. However, when it comes to assessing their respective strengths, it's challenging to draw a definitive conclusion. The issue here is similar to answering the question, are apples tastier than oranges? According to Sputnik, war games conducted by Chinese researchers found the U.S. military's most prized aircraft carrier could be reliably sunk with relative ease in the event of a hot war in the South China Sea. In the simulation, the U.S. ships came under fire after ignoring multiple Chinese warnings not to approach an island in the South China Sea controlled by Beijing. According to the reports, the Chinese military utilized a maritime surveillance network to detect and identify the U.S. aircraft carrier group before simultaneously launching 8 hypersonic missiles from locations in China. While some of the missiles were intercepted, the attack depleted the U.S. fleet supply of SM-3 missiles, paving the way for the Chinese military to launch 8 accurate hypersonic missiles from northern and western China, with 4 missiles targeting the aircraft carrier. After the simulated attack waves, most of the U.S. ships were destroyed or sunk. In subsequent simulated tests, the Chinese Navy was also able to defeat the aircraft carrier fleet commanded by the USS Giraffe or Ford using the most advanced anti-ship missiles variants. It is worth noting that in this simulated attack, military strategists specifically selected the most formidable ships in the U.S. Navy, such as the USS Giraffe or Ford, along with a Ticonderoga-class guided missiles cruiser CG-56 San Jacinto and 4 Alecpo-class destroyers. In the simulated battle, the Chinese military's power is completely dominant. However, in reality, when considering quality, the U.S. Navy is not easily defeated. According to the Telegraph, the total displacement of U.S. warships is double that of Chinese vessels. This means that the U.S. fleet has a longer operating range and better ability to cope with harsh sea conditions, making it a truly capable combat force. Having a larger displacement also translates to the U.S. Navy's ability to carry more weapons. In fact, U.S. warships can deploy over 9,000 missiles launchers, while China can only deploy 1,000 launchers. Furthermore, U.S. vessels are more advanced. In reality, China has a comparable number of submarines to the U.S., but only 15 of them are nuclear-powered, while the rest still run on diesel engines. In terms of combat capability, naval admirals are hardly concerned about diesel-powered submarines, as they are not truly submarines. When fully submerged, diesel-powered submarines have to rely on batteries, which is a significant limitation as they would be slow and have a narrow operational range. In history, slow diesel-powered submarines had to operate on the surface to carry out attacks on Allied convoys. During World War II, the diesel submarines would only dive at the last minute to avoid being detected and sunk by escorting warships. When engaging with aircraft in the Battle of the Atlantic, being forced to surface also left these diesel submarines with little chance at victory, resulting in the majority of them being sunk. In potential naval battles, radar and aircrafts won't be present everywhere. Therefore, the use of diesel submarines would lead to significant limitations. For this reason, the Chinese submarine force could be completely overwhelmed. However, the Chinese Navy has some tactics that the U.S. needs to take note of. According to a report by the U.S. Congressional Research Service, China's anti-ship ballistic missiles, ASBMs, known as long-range ballistic missiles, can be launched from up to 3,000 km away to strike and sink a moving ship. ASBMs are often discussed by those who are critical of navies and aircraft carriers, typically by Army or Air Force officers, suggesting that ASBMs render naval power obsolete. According to the Telegraph, this proposal overlooks several different issues. Firstly, the location of the adversary's warships needs to be known to target them with ASBMs. However, the U.S. carrier strike groups do not allow this. Specifically, it's very difficult to detect the position of submarines with reconnaissance aircraft, as the U.S. carrier strike groups maintain round-the-clock operations of their Hawkeye surveillance aircraft. Due to the curvature of the Earth, the Hawkeye operating at higher altitude will detect the reconnaissance aircraft before the reconnaissance aircraft fights the carrier. Immediately afterward, the carrier's fighter aircraft will ensure that the intruder cannot approach any closer. Even if the Chinese Navy managed to determine the locations of a U.S. aircraft carrier and launches some anti-ship missiles, those descending missiles will have to overcome interception system from guided missile cruisers and destroyers. The interception capability of the U.S. has been demonstrated in the conflict in Ukraine, where the U.S. Patriot system was able to intercept Russia's hypersonic Kinzhal missiles. Therefore, the U.S. Navy Standard Missiles SM system and Aegis weapon system from guided missile cruisers and destroyers will have the ability to counter Chinese ICBMs. According to Telegraph, the U.S. SM-3 system can even destroy targets in space. With the arguments mentioned above, the U.S. Navy is not deterred despite Chinese overwhelming naval numbers. However, a research reported by the U.S. Congressional Research Service noticed that China would continue to implement plans to surpass the U.S. According to the Telegraph, the researchers predict that by 2040, the Chinese Navy will have 6 aircraft carriers, and the new aircraft carriers will be comparable in strength to the U.S. Navy. Currently, the U.S. maintains operations with 11 carrier strike groups, but if it has to maintain 6 groups to deal with China, the overall power of the U.S. will significantly diminish in other regions of the world. Meanwhile, with the current trend, by 2040, the Chinese Navy may have a superior number of warships compared to the U.S. Additionally, China's air and space capabilities by then may have developed to a point where they can determine the positions of the U.S. aircraft carriers. Future ICBMs may be sophisticated hypersonic warheads with variable trajectories when descending onto U.S. warships. With such technology, even the most advanced aircraft could face difficulties in interception. According to analysts, space technology will play a crucial role in future naval conflict. Recently, the Popular Mechanics website reported unusual activities at a military base depth in western China, indicating that Beijing is using laser to probe the operations of foreign satellites. According to Popular Mechanics, the Kola East test site in Xinjiang province is believed to house at least 2 Chinese laser weapons. The U.S. government believes that China is taking steps to surpass the United States in field of space science, with the ability to disrupt or even seize control of military satellites during times of war. According to Army technology, the Kola East test site has 2 laser weapons, which are most frequently used during the high noon period when foreign satellites are most active. During this time of the day, the sun casts a straight line from the North Pole to the South Pole, creating maximum illumination. This not only enhances image resolution but also proves advantageous for monitoring daily changes. According to Beijing's plan, laser weapons were initially developed as anti-satellite ASAT weapons. The Chinese military studied recent Western military campaigns and concluded that military satellites provide a significant advantage in modern warfare. Specifically, Western reconnaissance satellites can penetrate deep into Chinese territory, while GPS satellites allow the West to navigate easily even from thousands of miles away. In addition, military communication satellites enable air, land, and naval forces to operate in the most remote locations on the Earth, maintaining real-time communication with the Pentagon and other headquarters. If China can degrade or destroy these capabilities, it can hinder the operational effectiveness of foreign support forces in China's threats, particularly in regards to Taiwan. According to a recent report by the World Security Organization, China has been pursuing an anti-satellite weapons program since the 1960s. The organization also revealed the existence of 3 anti-satellite laser facilities spread across China, including the facility in Kola. The report by the World Security Organization also mentioned a series of incidents in 2006 when China's ground-based lasers were believed to have dazzled U.S. satellites, although the director of the U.S. National Reconnaissance Office later stated that the laser incidents did not cause significant damage to the U.S. satellite's ability to collect information. The past laser firing signaled an intent to target U.S. satellites in times of conflict. According to the Financial Times, leaked documents from the U.S. also indicated that China is developing the capability to gain control over satellites, rendering them ineffective in supporting communication, weaponry and intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance systems. Beijing may pursue this course of action as gaining control over a satellite would be a short-term action in warfare and would not lead to immediate military retaliation, while effectively disabling the satellite. According to Popular Mechanics, China's development of laser-based anti-satellite weapons aims to limit the global communication capabilities of the U.S. military. The U.S. needs to ensure the security of its extensive military satellite constellation against a range of threats, as once Beijing becomes confident in surpassing Washington in the space domain, all possibilities cannot be ruled out. In terms of quality, the Chinese Navy is not yet capable of overpowering the U.S. Navy in a direct confrontation. However, this is the current state of affairs. In the future, the outcome of naval battles may be influenced by space technology and other supporting factors. While the U.S. may make significant advancements in technology, China is also showing a serious commitment to space projects. Therefore, the race between these two superpowers in the field of space will be an important topic to watch in the coming years. Now the time for the world affair has come to an end. We will bring you more in future episodes. Thank you so much for your attention. Goodbye and see you next time.